The signal traveled across the cold darkness of space for 17 days before it reached the blue planet. It was a cry for help, desperate and raw, sent by creatures who had never imagined who might answer. Commander Vrethkai of the Kaloran merchant vessel. Bright Promise pressed her four-fingered hand against the emergency beacon one final time. Her pale blue skin had turned almost white from fear. Around her, the ship groaned and shuddered as another impact rocked the hull. "The pirates are breaking through the cargo bay doors," her second officer reported. His voice trembled. "We have maybe 20 standard cycles before they reach the bridge." Vrethkai closed her large oval eyes. The Bright Promise was a simple trading ship. They carried medical supplies to the outer colonies. They had no weapons worth mentioning. No military training. They were merchants, healers, peaceful beings who had never harmed anyone. And now they would die. The Vrakshi pirates had appeared from nowhere, their black ships emerging from behind a dead moon like shadows coming to life. The Vrakshi were known throughout the galaxy as the cruelest species ever to travel between the stars. They did not simply rob their victims, they took pleasure in pain. They recorded the suffering of their prey and broadcast it across illegal channels for entertainment. "The distress signal is broadcasting on all frequencies," the communications officer said. "But, Commander, we are in the outer reach. No Galactic Council patrol will reach us in time. The nearest military vessel is 3 cycles away." "I know," Vrethkai whispered. "But we must try. Perhaps someone will hear. Perhaps someone will come." She did not believe her own words. In this forgotten corner of space, help would not arrive. The Vrakshi knew this. That was why they hunted here. What Vrethkai did not know, what no one in the Galactic Council knew, was that her distress signal was about to reach a species that had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. A species from a small planet in an unremarkable solar system. A species that the galaxy had not yet cataloged or studied or understood. The signal reached Earth. Captain Sarah Chen was drinking her 3rd cup of coffee when the alarm sounded on the bridge of the USS Endeavour. She set down the cup and turned to her communications officer with raised eyebrows. "What do we have, Lieutenant Park?" Lieutenant James Park frowned at his console. The Endeavour was Earth's first deep space exploration vessel, launched just 18 months ago. They had traveled farther from home than any human in history, and in all that time, they had never detected anything like this. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's definitely artificial. Definitely not natural." He paused, his fingers moving across the controls. "Ma'am, I think it's a distress signal." The bridge went silent. Every crew member turned to look at Park, then at Captain Chen. For over a century, humanity had searched for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. They had built massive radio telescopes. They had sent probes to distant planets. They had dreamed and hoped and wondered. And now, on an ordinary Tuesday in deep space, they had found it. "Are you certain?" Chen asked. Her voice was calm, but her heart was racing. "The signal is repeating. There's a mathematical pattern in the modulation. This isn't random noise, Captain. Someone is asking for help." Chen stood from her command chair and walked to the main view screen. The stars stared back at her, cold and infinite. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. "Can you determine the source?" "Already done, ma'am. The signal is coming from a point approximately 4 hours away at maximum drive." Park looked up. "Captain, our translation software is still experimental, but I think I can make out part of the message. They're saying something about attackers, multiple hostile ships. They're begging for anyone to help them." Commander David Okonkwo, the ship's executive officer, stepped closer to Chen. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a careful mind. "Captain, we need to consider this carefully. We don't know what we're flying into. We have no idea what species sent this signal or what species is attacking them. We're an exploration vessel, not a warship." We have weapons, Chen said. Basic defensive systems. We were never designed for combat. Chen nodded slowly. Okonkwo was right. Every word he said was logical and reasonable. The smart choice was to record the signal, continue on their mission, and report back to Earth Command. Let the politicians and generals decide what to do. But Sarah Chen had not become a starship captain by always making the smart choice. Lieutenant Park, can you tell me anything about the attackers? Park worked his console. Based on the signal patterns, it looks like multiple ships. At least 5, maybe more. They're larger than the vessel sending the distress call. And the ship in distress? Small. Lightly armed or possibly unarmed. The signal indicates they're a merchant vessel of some kind. Chen turned to look at her crew. They were watching her, waiting. These were good people. Scientists, engineers, explorers. They had signed up to discover new worlds and new life. They had not signed up to fight space pirates. But they were also human beings. And human beings had never been good at ignoring cries for help. I want opinions, Chen said. We're a crew. We make decisions together. Dr. Maria Santos, the ship's chief medical officer, spoke first. We have no idea what alien biology looks like. I might not be able to help any wounded we find. But I didn't become a doctor to ignore suffering. If there are people dying out there, I want to try. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, the chief engineer, nodded. The drive can handle 4 hours at maximum. It'll be rough on the systems, but we can do it. Okonkwo sighed. If we're doing this, we need a plan. We can't just fly in blind. Then we make a plan, Chen said. She turned back to the view screen. Lieutenant Park, send a response on the same frequency as the distress signal. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on. Yes, Captain. Chen sat back in her command chair. Her coffee had gone cold, but she barely noticed. Somewhere in the vast darkness ahead, strangers needed help. Everything humanity had ever dreamed about first contact, all the theories and preparations and protocols, none of it had imagined a scenario quite like this. But perhaps this was exactly how it should be. Not a carefully planned meeting between diplomats, not a slow exchange of mathematical formulas, just one ship hearing another ship's cry for help and choosing to answer. Maximum drive, Chen ordered. Let's go save some lives. On the Bright Promise, Vrethikai had gathered her crew in the cargo hold. There were 42 of them, mostly Colorans like herself, but also a few members of other species. A Dravian pilot with feathered arms, a pair of Molth engineers, their rocky skins scarred from years of work, a young Cillian medic, barely old enough to be away from her home world. The pirates had stopped their assault. This was not a good sign. The Vrakshi liked to play with their prey. They would let fear build, let hope fade, before the final attack. I want to thank all of you, Vrethikai said. Her voice was steady, though her hearts were heavy. You have served with honor. You have helped bring medicine and supplies to those who needed them. Whatever happens next, know that your lives had meaning. The young Cillian medic was crying. Tears ran down her scaled face like tiny rivers. Vrethikai wanted to comfort her, but what comfort could she offer? The truth was terrible, and there was no escaping it. Then her communication device crackled. Commander! The voice of her communications officer burst through the small speaker. Commander, we received a response! Vrethkai's 4 hearts stopped beating for a moment. What? Someone answered our distress call. They're coming. They say they'll be here in less than 4 cycles. A murmur ran through the crew. Hope, fragile and desperate, began to flicker in their eyes. Who answered? Vrethkai demanded. Which species? Which patrol? I don't know, Commander. The signal is unlike anything in our databases. The language is strange, but the message is clear. They're coming to help. Vrethkai closed her eyes and offered a silent prayer to the ancient gods of her people. Someone was coming. Someone had heard them. She did not know if help would arrive in time. The Vrakshi could resume their attack at any moment. But hope, even small hope, was better than none. "Tell the crew," she said. "Tell them to hold on. Tell them help is on the way." What she did not know, what no one in the galaxy knew, was that help was coming from a species called humans. And the galaxy was about to learn that humans were very, very different from any species they had encountered before. The Vrakshi war leader Skull Crusher examined the Kaloran vessel on his display screen and laughed. It was a harsh sound, like bones breaking. "They sent a distress signal," his lieutenant reported. "Standard Galactic Council frequencies." "Of course they did," Skull Crusher said. "Let them beg. Let them hope. It makes the fear sweeter when hope dies." The Vrakshi were a species that had evolved on a brutal world where survival meant cruelty. They had no concept of mercy because their evolution had never required it. The weak died. The strong fed on the weak. This was the natural order. They had 5 ships surrounding the merchant vessel, 5 against 1. The outcome was never in doubt. The only question was how long to drag out the entertainment. "We should begin the final assault," the lieutenant suggested. "The crew grows restless." "They want blood." "Patience," Skull Crusher said. "Fear must ferment like wine. We will wait another cycle. Let them taste despair, then we will take them apart piece by piece." He had done this hundreds of times. The pattern was always the same. The prey would beg. They would offer everything they had. They would plead for their lives, and none of it would matter. The Vrakshi took what they wanted and destroyed the rest. But as Skull Crusher savored the anticipation, his sensors detected something unexpected. A ship was approaching, fast, very fast. "What is that?" he demanded. His lieutenant checked the readings. "Unknown vessel, war leader. Configuration not in our databases. It's coming directly toward us at extreme velocity." "Galactic Council military?" "No, war leader. The energy signature is completely foreign. This ship is not from any known species." Skull Crusher felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Uncertainty. The galaxy was vast, and there were always new species to discover. Most were weak, easy prey, but occasionally, very occasionally, a predator met something unexpected. "Hail them," he ordered. "Let them know they are interfering with Vrakshi business." The communication was sent. Moments later, a response came back. A creature appeared on the view screen. It had pale skin, dark hair, and eyes that seemed to burn with an inner fire. It wore a uniform that Skull Crusher did not recognize. When it spoke, the translation software struggled to keep up with the unfamiliar language. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Endeavor. You will cease your attack on the merchant vessel immediately and withdraw from this sector." Skull Crusher stared at the creature. Then he laughed again. "You dare give orders to the Vrakshi? You come alone, in one small ship, and you think you can threaten us? Tell me, creature, what species are you? I want to know what I'm about to destroy." The creature called Chen did not flinch. Her eyes remained steady, her voice calm. "We are called humans, and we don't respond well to threats." "Humans," Skull Crusher repeated, tasting the word. "I have never heard of your kind. After today, no one else will either. You should have stayed hidden in whatever corner of the galaxy you crawled from." He cut the communication and turned to his lieutenant. "Destroy them." On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Chen watched the Vrakshi ships begin to move. 5 vessels, each larger than her own, arranging themselves in attack formation. "They're not going to back down," Okonkwo said. "No," Chen agreed. "They're not." She had seen the recordings during the brief communication. The Vrakshi were nightmarish creatures, all teeth and claws and dark armor. They looked like something from humanity's oldest fears, the monsters that lurked in shadows and dark places. But Sarah Chen had grown up on stories of monsters, and in those stories, monsters could be defeated. Lieutenant Tanaka, what's our weapon status? Railguns charged and ready. Missile tubes loaded. Point defense systems online. Tanaka paused. Captain, I should mention that these weapons were designed for asteroid defense. We've never actually used them against another ship. First time for everything, Chen said. Park, what can you tell me about those ships? Park had been studying the sensor readings with intense focus. Their ships are well armed, but their technology is different from ours. Their weapons appear to be based on some kind of energy projection. Plasma or particle beams, I think. Their hulls are thick but not especially reinforced. Weaknesses? Their engines produce a lot of heat. They might be vulnerable to targeted strikes against their propulsion systems. Chen nodded. She pulled up a tactical display and began forming a plan. The Vrakshi outnumbered her 5-1, but numbers were not everything. History was full of examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics, better technology, or simply greater determination. Here's what we're going to do, she said. We're going to use our speed advantage. The Endeavor is faster than those ships. We're going to make them chase us, spread them out, and take them down one at a time. Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. That's a bold strategy. Do you have a better one? No, he admitted, but I wanted to say it out loud so we all understand what we're attempting. Chen smiled grimly. We're attempting to save 42 people who are about to be killed by space pirates. If we fail, we die. If we succeed, we make first contact and establish humanity as a species that doesn't abandon people in trouble. She looked around the bridge. Any objections? No one spoke. Then let's show these pirates what humans can do. The Endeavor surged forward, its engines blazing with power. The 5 Vrakshi ships opened fire, streams of plasma racing through space toward the human vessel. But the Endeavor was already moving, dancing between the energy blasts like a leaf in a storm. The ship's computer had been designed to navigate asteroid fields at high speed. Compared to tumbling rocks the size of mountains, plasma bolts were almost easy to avoid. Returning fire, Tanaka announced. The railguns spoke, hurling metal slugs at tremendous velocity. The first shot struck the lead Vrakshi ship in its engine section. The impact was devastating. Human railgun technology accelerated projectiles to a significant fraction of the speed of light. The kinetic energy released on impact was enormous. The Vrakshi ship lurched, fire and debris exploding from its rear section. It was not destroyed, but it was crippled, spinning helplessly out of formation. The remaining 4 ships scattered, suddenly unsure. They had never faced a weapon like this. Energy shields were common throughout the galaxy, and most species designed their defenses to stop energy weapons. But kinetic projectiles were considered primitive, outdated, hardly worth defending against. No one had told the humans this. 1 down, Chen said. 4 to go. Let's get to work. The battle had begun. And for the first time in their long history of predation, the Vrakshi were learning what it felt like to be prey. Skullcrusher watched in disbelief as his lead ship tumbled away, fire streaming from its shattered engines. In all his years of raiding, in all the battles he had fought, he had never seen a weapon like this. What hit us? He demanded. His voice had lost its confident edge. Unknown projectile, war leader. Solid matter moving at extreme velocity. Our shields were not designed to stop physical objects at that speed. This was true. Throughout the galaxy, warfare had evolved around energy weapons. Shields deflected plasma and particle beams. Armor absorbed heat and radiation. Physical projectiles were considered primitive, the weapons of species who had not yet discovered proper technology. But these humans had turned that assumption into a deadly advantage. They are circling behind us, the lieutenant reported. They are faster than our ships. Skullcrusher snarled. The human vessel was small, but it moved like a creature born in space. Every time his ships turned to face it, it slipped away, appearing at a different angle, striking from unexpected directions. Another impact, another ship crippled. War Leader, the Fang of Darkness has lost propulsion. They are dead in space. 2 ships down, 3 remaining, and the human vessel was still undamaged. Skullcrusher made a decision that would have been unthinkable just minutes ago. He opened a channel to all his ships. All vessels, concentrate fire. Forget the merchant ship. Destroy the humans. Now. The 3 remaining Vrakshi ships turned as one, their weapons blazing. Space filled with plasma fire, a wall of destruction aimed at the Endeavor. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Chen gripped her armrests as the ship rolled and dove. Warning alarms screamed. The temperature was rising as the hull absorbed near misses from the plasma bolts. "They're focusing on us," Okonkwo said. "All 3 ships." "Good. That means they've stopped attacking the merchant vessel. It also means they might actually hit us." Chen acknowledged this with a tight nod. The Vrakshi had adjusted their tactics. They were no longer trying to surround the Endeavor. They were simply pouring fire into its path, trying to create a wall of destruction that even the nimble human ship could not avoid. "Tanaka, can we punch through?" "Maybe," the engineer replied. "But if we take a direct hit to the engines, we're done." Chen studied the tactical display. The 3 Vrakshi ships were holding formation now, covering each other, making it harder to pick them off individually. They were learning. But humans were good at learning too. "Park, I need you to do something crazy." "I'm listening, Captain." "I need you to broadcast on their communication frequency. Not words, sound, the most disruptive, irritating noise you can generate. I want their audio systems screaming." Park looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned. "Electronic warfare. You want to distract them." "I want to give us an opening. Even a few seconds of confusion might be enough." Park's fingers flew across his console. Moments later, a shriek of static and feedback burst across all frequencies. It was a sound designed to be impossible to ignore, a cacophony of tones and pulses that triggered automatic reflexes in most species' auditory systems. On the Vrakshi ships, chaos erupted. The sudden assault on their communication systems caused crew members to flinch, to cover their ears, to momentarily lose focus. "Now!" Chen ordered. "Full thrust! Get us behind them!" The Endeavor shot forward. Engines blazing at maximum power. The ship dove between 2 of the Vrakshi vessels, so close that Chen could see individual hull plates through the view screen. "Fire everything!" Tanaka unleashed the full fury of the Endeavor's weapons. Railgun slugs slammed into one ship at point-blank range, tearing through its hull like paper. Missiles followed, their warheads detonating against the vulnerable midsection. The Vrakshi ship came apart. There was no dramatic explosion like in old movies. One moment it was a vessel, the next it was a cloud of debris, metal fragments spinning away into the darkness. 3 ships had become 2. In the cargo hold of the Bright Promise, Vrethkai and her crew watched the battle through a small display screen. They could barely believe what they were seeing. "Who are these beings?" the Dravian pilot whispered. "I have never seen anything like them." Vrethkai had no answer. The unknown ship fought like nothing she had ever witnessed. It was aggressive, fearless, attacking the Vrakshi with a ferocity that seemed almost personal. Throughout the galaxy, most species avoided conflict when possible. War was wasteful, destructive, an evolutionary dead end. Diplomacy and trade had built the Galactic Council. The Vrakshi were an exception, a species that had somehow evolved to embrace violence, and they were regarded as monsters by the civilized races. But these humans, whoever they were, did not seem afraid of monsters. "Look!" the Silian medic said, pointing at the screen. "They are winning!" It was true. Another Vrakshi ship was tumbling away, its engines dark. Only 2 pirates remained. and they were no longer advancing. They were retreating. Vrethkai felt tears gathering in her eyes. Kalorans did not cry often, but this moment deserved tears. Strangers from an unknown world had come to save them. They had risked their lives for people they had never met, would probably never meet again. This was not how the galaxy worked. Species looked out for their own kind. Alliances were built on mutual benefit, not altruism. No one simply helped because helping was the right thing to do. Except apparently humans did. Skullcrusher tasted something bitter in his mouth. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. He was afraid. 2 of his ships were destroyed. 2 more were crippled and drifting. He was alone against the human vessel, and his ship had already taken damage. "War leader," his lieutenant said, "we should withdraw. We cannot win this fight." Every instinct Skullcrusher possessed screamed against retreat. The Vrakshi did not retreat. The Vrakshi were predators, the masters of space, the terror of the shipping lanes. They did not run from prey, but the humans were not prey. "What are they?" Skullcrusher whispered. "What species fights like this for strangers?" He had raided 100 vessels. He had killed thousands of beings. And in all that time, not once had someone come to help his victims. The galaxy was vast and cold, and species learned early that survival meant focusing on your own kind. These humans had traveled across unknown distances to answer a distress call from beings they had never encountered. They had attacked 5 ships with just 1. They had fought with a ferocity and creativity that Skullcrusher had never witnessed. They were insane. They were dangerous. They were something new. "Retreat," Skullcrusher ordered. The word felt like ash on his tongue. "Full speed to the jump point. We're leaving." His remaining ship turned and fled. The engines strained, pushing the damaged vessel toward the edge of the system where it could make the jump to faster-than-light speed. Behind him, the human ship did not pursue. It simply held position, watching him run. Skullcrusher would remember this day for the rest of his life. He would tell other Vrakshi about the humans, about their strange weapons and fearless tactics. He would warn them to avoid this new species, to stay away from their territory, to never again underestimate a distress call. The Vrakshi had ruled through fear for thousands of years, but today, for the first time, they had met a species that frightened them. Captain Chen watched the last pirate ship disappear into the distance. Her hands were shaking slightly, the adrenaline still coursing through her system. "They're running," Okonkwo said. There was wonder in his voice. "They'd be stupid not to." Chen stood from her command chair. Her legs felt unsteady. "Damage report." "Minor hull breaches in sections 7 and 12, Tanaka reported. "Nothing critical. The armor held better than expected against those plasma weapons. We have some burned-out power relays that will need replacement, but overall, we're in good shape." "Casualties? 3 crew members with minor injuries from being thrown around during maneuvers. Dr. Santos is treating them now. No fatalities." Chen closed her eyes for a moment. They had done it. Against impossible odds, against a superior force, they had won. The Endeavor and its crew had answered a distress call and survived. "Park, hail the merchant vessel. Let them know the pirates are gone." Park worked his console. Moments later, a face appeared on the view screen. It was an alien face, blue-skinned with large oval eyes, but the expression was universal. Relief, gratitude, joy. "Unknown vessel," the alien said. The translation was imperfect, but the meaning was clear. "I am Commander Vrethkai of the merchant ship Bright Promise. You saved us. You saved all of us. I do not have words sufficient to express our gratitude." Chen smiled. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Endeavor. We heard your distress call and came as fast as we could. Is your crew safe?" "We are unharmed, thanks to you. But Captain Chen, I must ask, who are you? What species are you? We have no record of your kind in any of our databases. Chen glanced at Okonkwo. This was the moment they had trained for, the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. First contact, the beginning of a relationship between Earth and the wider galaxy. We call ourselves humans, Chen said. We come from a planet called Earth. We've only recently developed the technology to travel between stars. Your distress call was the first alien transmission we've ever received. There was a long pause. Vrethakai's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. You came to help us, not knowing who we were, not knowing what you would face, simply because you heard our call for help? That's right. Another pause. When Vrethkai spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. Captain Chen, I have traveled the stars for 30 cycles. I have met dozens of species, visited hundreds of worlds, and I have never encountered a people who would do what you have done today. You risked everything for strangers. You fought against terrible odds. You acted without promise of reward or alliance or benefit to your own kind. It was the right thing to do, Chen said simply. Vrethakai shook her head slowly. You say that as if it is obvious, as if any species would do the same. But, Captain, I must tell you, that is not how the galaxy works. Most species would have recorded our distress call and continued on their journey. Some might have reported it to the authorities, knowing help would arrive too late, but none would have done what you did. Chen was not sure how to respond to this. For her crew, the decision had been simple. People were in danger. They had the ability to help. So they helped. We're just doing what humans do, she said finally. Then humans are remarkable, Vrethkai replied, and the galaxy needs to know about you. 3 standard days later, the Bright Promise and the Endeavor arrived together at Kaloran Station, a massive space installation that served as a trading hub for this sector of the galaxy. Word had traveled ahead of them. When the 2 ships docked, a crowd was waiting. Hundreds of beings, representing dozens of species, had gathered in the station's main concourse. They watched in silence as the airlock doors opened and Captain Chen stepped through, followed by her crew. For a moment, no one moved. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a single individual began to clap. Others joined. The applause spread like a wave until the entire concourse was thundering with appreciation. Chen stood frozen, overwhelmed. She had expected curiosity, perhaps suspicion. She had not expected this. A tall, slender being approached her. He had silver skin and eyes that shimmered like pools of liquid metal. He wore robes that marked him as some kind of official. Captain Chen, he said, his voice melodic. I am Ambassador Corvin of the Galactic Council. We have heard reports of your actions. On behalf of the civilized species of this galaxy, I wish to express our profound gratitude. We were just doing our job, Chen said. Corvin smiled, though his facial structure made the expression look slightly different than a human smile. Your job? Yes. Tell me, Captain, is it common among humans to risk death for strangers? Chen thought about the question. She thought about her father, a firefighter who had died saving a family from a burning building. She thought about her grandmother, a doctor who had worked in war zones, treating anyone who needed help regardless of which side they fought for. She thought about all the stories she had grown up with, stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things because someone needed help. It's not uncommon, she said. Humans have a saying, when you can help, you should help. It's one of the first things we teach our children. Corvin's silver eyes studied her for a long moment. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. Captain Chen, I believe the Galactic Council will be very interested in learning more about your species. We're looking forward to it, Chen replied. We've been hoping to meet other intelligent life for a very long time. And now you have, though I must warn you, Captain, the galaxy is a complicated place. There are many species, many alliances, many conflicts. Your actions today have made you famous, but fame is a double-edged tool. Some will admire you, others will fear you, and some may see you as a threat. Chen nodded. She had expected this. Earth's governments had spent decades planning for first contact, preparing for the complex politics that would inevitably follow. "We're ready to face whatever comes," she said. "Humans have been dealing with complicated situations for a long time. We've made mistakes, lots of them. But we've also learned from those mistakes. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better." "That," Corvin said softly, "may be the most remarkable thing you've said. A species that admits its flaws and actively works to improve. In my experience, that is extremely rare." He gestured toward the crowd. "Come, Captain. There are many who wish to meet you. The Galactic Council will want to establish formal relations with Earth. There will be negotiations, treaties, all the tedious business of interstellar diplomacy. But today, let us simply celebrate. Today, you saved 42 lives. That deserves recognition." Chen walked forward, her crew behind her. The crowd parted to let them through, faces of every shape and color watching with expressions of curiosity and admiration. Commander Okonkwo moved up beside her. "Well, Captain, I think we can officially say that first contact is a success." Chen laughed softly. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've won one battle and made some friends. The hard part is just beginning. You think there will be trouble? There's always trouble. But that's okay. Trouble is something humans know how to handle." She smiled at the alien faces around her, each one representing a species with its own history, its own culture, its own way of looking at the universe. Humanity had just taken its first step onto a much larger stage, and somewhere out in the darkness, the surviving Vrakshi were already sending messages to their homeworld. Warnings about a new species that had entered the galaxy. Warnings about creatures who fought without fear, who came to the aid of strangers, who had weapons that could not be stopped by conventional defenses. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had arrived. On the Vrakshi homeworld of Charvok, War Commander Scarrath read the report from Skullcrusher with growing unease. The images showed the battle from the sensors of the surviving ship. The human vessel, small but deadly, dancing through plasma fire and delivering devastating kinetic strikes. "These creatures worry me," Scarrath said to his advisors. "They are too aggressive, too willing to fight for things that do not benefit them." "They are new," one advisor suggested. "Perhaps they do not understand how the galaxy works. They will learn that interference has consequences." "Or perhaps," Scarrath said slowly, "we will learn that threatening them has consequences." He had built his career on understanding predators. The Vrakshi survived because they were the most dangerous species in their region of space. No one challenged them because the cost was too high. But these humans had not calculated the cost. They had not considered the odds. They had simply heard a cry for help and come running. That kind of behavior was unpredictable, dangerous. It could not be controlled through fear because these creatures apparently did not prioritize their own safety. "We will watch them," Scarrath decided. "We will learn everything we can about their world, their population, their military capabilities. And we will not strike until we are certain of victory." "And if we are never certain?" Scarrath did not answer. The thought was too disturbing to contemplate. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Vrakshi were unsure of their place in the galaxy. A new predator had emerged. And this predator did not play by any rules the Vrakshi understood. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun. Nothing would ever be the same. 6 months had passed since the Endeavor's battle with the Vrakshi. In that time, everything had changed. Earth had established its first official embassy at Kaloran Station, staffed by diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts who worked around the clock to build relationships with the galaxy's thousands of species. Trade agreements were signed. Scientific exchanges began. Humans learned about faster-than-light travel from species who had mastered it centuries ago, and in return, they shared their own innovations. Captain Sarah Chen had become famous throughout the civilized galaxy. Her face appeared on news broadcasts from 100 worlds. Children of species she had never heard of played games pretending to be human starship captains. The story of how she had answered a stranger's distress call had spread like wildfire, becoming something more than just a rescue. It had become a symbol. Chen hated the attention. She had done what any decent person would do, what she hoped any human would do. The fact that this was considered extraordinary said more about the galaxy than it did about her. But today, she was not thinking about fame or politics or the weight of representing her entire species. Today, she was thinking about war. "The Vrakshi are mobilizing," Ambassador Corvin said. They were meeting in a secure conference room aboard the Council's headquarters station. "Our intelligence suggests they are gathering a fleet unlike anything they have assembled in centuries." Chen studied the holographic display showing the Vrakshi territory. It was a vast swath of space, dozens of systems, hundreds of ships. The Vrakshi had been a terror for thousands of years, raiding and pillaging at will. The Galactic Council had never been able to stop them because no single species was willing to commit the resources necessary for a full war. "How many ships?" Chen asked. "At least 200 warships, possibly more. They are stripping their garrisons, calling in every vessel they can find." "Where are they going?" Corvin's silver eyes met hers. "Earth." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Chen felt her blood run cold. "They're coming for us? Why?" "Because of what you did 6 months ago. Because of what you represent." Corvin sighed, a surprisingly human gesture. "Captain, you must understand. The Vrakshi have ruled through fear for millennia. They have survived because no one dares challenge them. But you challenged them. You defeated them. And worse, you did it to save strangers, to protect the weak. And that makes us a target? That makes you a threat to everything they are. If humans spread through the galaxy, if your philosophy of helping others takes root, the Vrakshi lose their power. Fear only works when no one is willing to stand against it. You showed that someone is willing." Chen closed her eyes. She had known there would be consequences. She had told Okonkwo as much on the day of their victory, but she had hoped for more time. Earth had only a handful of starships, a tiny military presence in space. Against 200 Vrakshi warships, they would be annihilated. "When?" she asked. "Our estimates suggest 2 months, perhaps 3. They need time to gather their forces and plan the assault." "Can the Galactic Council help?" Corvin's expression was pained. "I have argued for intervention. Many council members support humanity, especially after your actions at Kaloran Station. But the council moves slowly. Bureaucracy, politics, competing interests. By the time they agree on a course of action, it may be too late." Chen stood and walked to the window. Beyond the glass, stars glittered in the endless darkness. Somewhere out there, her home world was going about its business, unaware that death was coming. "Then we'll have to help ourselves," she said. The message was broadcast on every frequency, in every language the Endeavor's computers could translate. Captain Chen stood before the camera on the bridge of her ship, her uniform pressed, her expression determined. "My name is Sarah Chen. 6 months ago, my crew and I answered a distress call from a merchant vessel under attack by Vrakshi pirates. We did not know the people we were saving. We did not ask what species they were or whether they could pay us back. We simply heard a cry for help and responded." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Today, I am making a different kind of call. The Vrakshi are gathering a fleet to attack Earth, my home world. They want to destroy us because we believe in helping others. They want to send a message that anyone who stands against them will be eliminated. I am not asking the Galactic Council for help. I am not asking any government or military to risk their people for us. I am asking something simpler. I am asking anyone who believes that the galaxy can be better, anyone who is tired of living in fear, anyone who has ever wished someone would stand up to the Vrakshi, to join us. We may lose. We are one planet against an empire of terror. But if we stand together, if we show the Vrakshi that there are things worth fighting for, then even in defeat, we will have won something important. We will have proven that fear does not have to rule the galaxy. If you want to help, come to Earth. We will welcome you as friends and allies. Together we can show the Vrakshi that their time is over. The broadcast ended. Chen sat down heavily, exhausted. You think anyone will respond? Okonkwo asked. I don't know, but we had to try. The first ship arrived 3 days later. It was Kaloran, a small scout vessel with a crew of 12. Vrethkai stood at the airlock as it opened, her blue face bright with determination. Commander? Chen said, surprised. What are you doing here? You saved my life, Vrethkai replied. You saved the lives of my entire crew. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would let you face this alone? Chen felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. You don't owe us anything. This is not about debt. This is about what is right. You taught me that, Captain. You showed me that strangers can help strangers, that the galaxy does not have to be cold and uncaring. I am here because I believe in what you represent. Before Chen could respond, the communications officer interrupted. Captain, we're detecting more ships entering the system. A lot more ships. Chen rushed to the bridge. The tactical display was lighting up with new contacts, dozens of them, then hundreds. Ships of every size and configuration, from massive cruisers to tiny personal craft, were dropping out of faster-than-light travel and assembling in Earth's orbit. We're receiving identification signals, the communications officer reported. Kaloran vessels, Dravian fighters, Molth heavy cruisers, Cillian medical ships. Captain, there are representatives from over 50 different species. Chen stared at the display in disbelief. She had hoped for a handful of volunteers. She had prepared herself for the possibility that no one would come. Instead, an armada was forming around her home world. A transmission came through. Ambassador Corvin's silver face appeared on the screen. Captain Chen, I told you that the Galactic Council moves slowly. That is true, but the people of the galaxy move faster. When your message went out, ships began launching before their governments could even respond. Volunteers, activists, those who have lived in fear of the Vrakshi for generations and finally see a chance to fight back. How many? At last count, over 300 vessels. More are coming every hour. Corvin smiled. It seems your philosophy of helping others has found some followers. Chen turned to look at her bridge crew. They were staring at the tactical display with the same disbelief she felt. We're not alone, she said softly. War Commander Scarrath received the intelligence report aboard his flagship, the Endless Night. His fleet was complete now, 230 warships ready to reduce Earth to rubble. The humans had been a thorn in his side for too long. Today, that thorn would be removed. Sir, his intelligence officer said, there is a complication. Explain. The humans have received reinforcements. A significant number of ships from various species have gathered in their system. Scarrath waved dismissively. How many? A few dozen? The galaxy is full of species who talk about standing up to us but never actually do anything. Currently counting 312 vessels, War Commander, with more arriving. Scarrath went still. 300? That is impossible. No one would commit forces to defend a species they barely know. Apparently, the humans inspired them. There are reports of volunteers launching without government approval, civilians flying personal craft, retired military officers pulling old ships out of storage. It seems the entire galaxy has decided to make a stand. Scarrath felt a chill run down his spine. This was not supposed to happen. The Vrakshi had maintained their power precisely because no one ever united against them. Individual species were too weak to challenge them alone, and they never cooperated because they had nothing worth dying for. The humans had given them something worth dying for. "It does not matter," Scarrath declared, pushing down his unease. "We have superior numbers, superior firepower, generations of combat experience. These volunteers are untrained, uncoordinated. They will break when they see our fleet." "And if they don't?" Scarrath did not answer. He could not afford to consider that possibility. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Maximum speed. We end this today." Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, now designated as the flagship of the combined fleet. Around her, the Allied ships had arranged themselves into defensive formations, 300 vessels from 50 species, most of whom had never fought alongside each other before. It should have been chaos. Instead, there was an energy that Chen had never felt before, a sense of shared purpose that transcended species and language and culture. "The Vrakshi fleet is entering the system," her tactical officer reported. 230 warships. They're not trying to hide." Chen nodded. The display showed the enemy fleet spreading out, preparing to attack. 200 ships against 300 sounded like favorable odds, but the Vrakshi vessels were purpose-built warships. Many of the Allied ships were converted freighters, passenger liners, even mining vessels hastily equipped with weapons. This would not be an easy fight. "Open a channel to all ships," Chen said. The communications officer nodded. "Channel open." Chen took a deep breath. In a few hours, people were going to die. Good people who had come to help strangers. She owed them words worth dying for. "Friends, allies, volunteers, I want to thank you for being here. 6 months ago, I answered a distress call because I believed that was what humans do. I believed that helping others, even at risk to ourselves, was fundamental to who we are. Today, you have shown me that this belief is not limited to humans. It belongs to everyone who dreams of a better galaxy. The Vrakshi come here to teach us a lesson. They want us to learn that standing up for others has consequences, that helping the weak makes you a target, that fear is the only thing that matters. I say we teach them a different lesson. I say we show them that there are things stronger than fear, courage, compassion, the simple belief that we are all in this together, that what happens to one of us happens to all of us. Some of us will not survive this day, but what we do here will echo across the galaxy for generations. We are showing everyone, every species, every world, that unity is possible, that standing together works, that the age of terror is ending. For Earth, for Kalora, for every world that has ever suffered under Vrakshi cruelty. Today, we fight." A cheer erupted across the communication channels. Voices in 100 languages, sounds that humans had never heard before, all expressing the same sentiment. "We stand with you." Chen smiled grimly. "All ships, engage." The battle for Earth would be remembered as the turning point in galactic history. It began with the Vrakshi fleet charging directly toward the defensive line, expecting the untested alliance to scatter. Instead, the Allied ships held formation, absorbing the initial attack and responding with coordinated fire. Human railguns proved devastatingly effective against Vrakshi shields. The kinetic weapons, considered primitive by galactic standards, tore through defenses designed to stop energy attacks. Kaloran electronic warfare systems jammed Vrakshi communications. Molth cruisers, built for asteroid mining, used their cutting beams to slice through enemy hulls. Each species brought something unique to the fight. Dravian pilots, their reflexes enhanced by centuries of evolution, flew circles around Vrakshi fighters. Cillian medical ships darted through the battle, rescuing crews from crippled vessels and treating the wounded. Even civilian ships contributed, their captains performing ramming attacks against larger targets or serving as decoys to draw fire. And at the center of it all, the Endeavor led charge after charge, Captain Chen directing the fleet with an instinctive tactical brilliance that stunned her allies. The Vrakshi had never faced anything like this. Their entire strategy was based on attacking weak, isolated targets. They did not know how to fight an enemy that refused to run, that kept coming no matter how many ships they lost. "War Commander!" The officer on the endless night was practically screaming. "We have lost 30 ships, 50! The enemy is not breaking!" Scar-Wrath watched his tactical display in horror. His beautiful fleet was being destroyed, not by superior numbers or overwhelming firepower, but by determination, by belief, by the simple, terrible refusal to give up. "They should be running," he muttered. "Why won't they run?" "Because they have something to fight for," a small voice in his mind answered. "Because they finally found each other." "All ships, retreat!" The order burned in Scar-Wrath's throat. Another retreat, another defeat. But the alternative was the complete destruction of the Vrakshi fleet. The surviving Vrakshi ships turned and fled. The Allied fleet did not pursue. They had won. The aftermath was chaotic and joyful. Ships that had been shooting at each other 6 months ago now docked together, their crews embracing and celebrating. Humans met aliens who had traveled halfway across the galaxy to help them. Drinks were shared, stories were exchanged, friendships were formed. Chen found Vrethkai in the Endeavor's observation lounge, watching Earth turn slowly below them. "Beautiful world," Vrethkai said. "It's home." Chen stood beside her. "I can't believe we won." "I can. You reminded us what we had forgotten. That courage is contagious. That standing up inspires others to stand up." Vrethkai turned to face her. "Captain Chen, I have something to tell you. During the battle, we received a message from the Galactic Council. They voted to officially sanction the Vrakshi. Full military and economic isolation. Their raiding days are over." "They finally took action?" "They had to. When they saw hundreds of ordinary citizens risking their lives because they believed in something, they could not remain neutral. Your broadcast did not just inspire volunteers. It shamed governments into doing what they should have done centuries ago." Chen shook her head slowly. "I didn't mean to start a revolution." "Maybe not. But you did anyway. The galaxy will never be the same. And that is a good thing." 1 year later, Captain Sarah Chen stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. Delegates from over 200 species filled the Great Hall, representing the most significant political shift in galactic history. "The old order was built on fear," Chen said. "Species stayed apart because they were afraid of each other. The strong preyed on the weak because no one would stop them. This was accepted as the natural way of things. But there is nothing natural about cruelty. There is nothing inevitable about suffering. These are choices, and choices can be changed. Humanity is a young species. We have been traveling among the stars for only a short time. But we have learned something that older species sometimes forget. We are stronger together, not just militarily, but in every way. When we share knowledge, everyone learns faster. When we trade, everyone prospers. When we help each other, everyone survives. Today we are creating something new. Not just an alliance, but a community. A promise that we will look out for each other. That when one of us sends a distress call, the others will answer." She looked out at the assembled delegates. Caloran, Dravian, Molth, Cillian, and dozens of others she was still learning to recognize. All of them had come because they believed in this vision. Some said humans were naive, that we did not understand how the galaxy really worked. Maybe they were right. But sometimes it takes an outsider to see what everyone else has been missing. The old galaxy was cold. Let's make the new one warm. The applause was thunderous. Chen smiled and stepped back from the podium. Beside her, Vrethkai squeezed her hand. "You did it," Vrethkai said. "We did it. All of us." And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, a new era was beginning. An era where a distress call would never go unanswered. An era where species cooperated instead of competing. An era where the galaxy finally lived up to its potential. All because one ship had heard a cry for help and chosen to respond. This is what humans do, Chen thought. And now it's what everyone does. The galaxy was ready. Together, they would face whatever came next.